MC, come on. We gotta start the review.
Just give me a moment.
Come on.
I'm on the phone. It's important.
It's time to do the review. Come on.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I was just ordering some, takeout. Got some ramen and some tacos and some roast beef. It's really amazing.
What's that?
It's what?
On your face.
The mutton?
On your face.
The skin.
MC, you don't wear glasses.
I clearly do.
MC, you don't wear glasses.
Then why are these on my face?
Take them off.
But I look cute.
Take them off.
Bear. Are you ready to start?
I am Mel Gibby.
And I'm MC Rides the Bus.
And we are Dial M for Movies blog. This week we decided to review the Silent Hill movie, the first one, in light of the recent sequel that just came out.
In 3D.
Where to begin with this movie?
Travesty.
It fails as a horror movie and as a game adaptation.
In short, Silent Hill the movie is a magical film where Miranda Cosgrove successfully portrays the girl from both The Grudge and Blackwater simultaneously.
It's actually Dark Water.
Is it Dark Water?
It's Megan.
This movie series is based off of Konami's popular survival horror video game franchise that debuted on the PlayStation 1 in 1999. The franchise gained notoriety for extremely well-weaved plotlines in addition to a startlingly dark ambient soundtrack, as well as a memorable cast of characters. Notice all of these positives have nothing to do with the movie so far.
First off, the movie is just not scary. You see, Matt and Pat from The Two Best Friends put it in a really simple way. The newer Silent Hill games and the movie go for this sense of horror for the sake of horror. It throws these scary images at the audience and says, "Look, it's so scary!"
For example, another element of horror would be like a scream. And what would make it successful is that it has to be both simultaneously startling and logical. Main character Rose fulfills the logical portion of this because as she's introduced to all this horror imagery, she screams. But as this passes, the audience is desensitized as her screams progressively become more bland and feel more perfunctory to the point where they no longer have an effect on the audience.
The main character Rose overacts all of her screams, but then severely underacts everything else that she does, to the point that our friends who had never even seen the movie were able to point it out.
And that brings us to our next chapter, the acting.
The character of Officer Sybil in particular is on par with porn star acting. It's just really overly dramatic in every single way.
The actress that portrays Sybil tries to take on this bad cop persona, but there's a difference between acting as a bad cop and just sort of throwing it out there to the point where it just feels forced. It doesn't feel natural.
Move it. Jesus, what are you doing? You're under arrest. What? You have the right to remain silent.
Why?
Anything you say
What
can
the
and will
hell
be used
for?
against you in a court of law.
I don't think you understand. There's something weird going on here.
You know, officer, I wasn't planning on things to go this way. I would have really preferred if you had just taken me out for dinner first.
It actually wouldn't surprise me if they found the actress who plays Sybil at a porn shoot.
Rack City chick, rack City chick, 10, 20s and them 50s chick.
Soundtrack feels like sort of a grab bag in the sense that there are moments where it's extremely successful and then moments where it is not. The more taciturn moments of the movie feature a dark ambient soundtrack, as previously mentioned, reminiscent of something like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross collaborating, or maybe even like Orrin and Barchi at times, which is really interesting. However, the more dramatic-y, action-y sequences feature a soundtrack that feels just overblown out of proportion. For example, there are segments of Rose running from point A to point B with no monsters, nothing chasing her, no impending danger, but the soundtrack is just so blaring and in your face that not only does it detract from Rose's process of navigating through the town and finding her daughter, it's grandiose to the point where it merely no longer fits. As far as plot devices go, the video games that the movie franchise is based off of revolve heavily around the puzzle-solving element. In fact, the main character will oftentimes find himself or herself spending more time solving a puzzle than actually shooting and fighting monsters.
However, in Silent Hill the movie, the audience finds Rose doing things like finding the flashlight inside the drawer, reaching into the corpse's mouth to pull out the piece of paper. Just instinctively, she just knows that she needs to cut through the painting to find the hidden passage. The character's actions just progress in this illogical way to the viewer, like as if the puzzle solving takes place, but you don't see it.
One important element of horror is a main character that's relatable and believable amidst a horrific universe. Someone who we can feel their helplessness. And in terms of puzzle solving, as would appear in the Silent Hill video games, there's supposed to be a feeling of wandering around, feelings of cluelessness, but that's not present because Rose has almost these unnatural instincts for finding items and just skipping through what would take a decent chunk of time in the video games to actually progress the plot.
The movie conveys that there are three different worlds in too dramatic a fashion via the color palettes. Christopher's real world is always really, really warm with reds and oranges and yellows, and then the fog world is really stark and blue and white, like Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, where the living world is stark and blank, and then the afterlife is really colorful and full. The problem is that in the Silent Hill video games, the line between the fog world and the real world is supposed to be blurred so that the player doesn't really know exactly where they are. In the movie, it breaks the rules. Early in the movie, you see Sybil and Sharon try to leave. There's a giant gorge in the way, so they can't do that, which makes sense with the games. After the cult is destroyed, they just drive out. They just drive out. Doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. The fog world now suddenly encompasses the entire world. It just doesn't work. And spoiler alert, it doesn't end. It doesn't make any sense. I can't deal with this!
But, you know, when this review started, we had trouble getting me here. And I'm here and you're...
Sharon!
You know, you'll have to excuse us, Dial.
Sharon! It doesn't resolve!
Do you need a moment in the... Well, while my partner is taking his time to gather himself, I'd like to talk a bit about the adaptation to the actual video game series. Just a personal favorite of mine that I got introduced to my first year of college. Problem A is that monsters are supposed to serve as, like, exaggerations of people's psychological manifestations, their shame, their guilt, and it's not really... Sir!
The movie sucks so bad!
I'm trying to do both of our jobs, and you're hitting a punching bag with the chicken. A great example in the video games is the character of Pyramid Head, who appears in the movie. He's this overly sexualized, violent exaggeration of James, the protagonist from the second game, which already stops making sense because the movie's supposed to be based off of the first game. Rose is used in place of Harry, who was that MC,
Sharon!
but have an idea of what's going on when characters are being swapped like this. The main point being is that these monsters are used entirely out of place. They're supposed to serve as sort of symbolic supplement to what's troubling the characters, but instead, as my partner said in the very beginning of the review, they just sort of serve as shock value. They're there, they're scary, but the full effective fear doesn't come across when these characters are hollow and ultimately meaningless.
Did you see that new episode of Friends?
The one with that Kramer chick, right? She's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Especially with that laugh she does.
I really like that episode.
You know, this mug here says Amore on it, and it seems like something that you'd get like your spouse as like a cutesy little Valentine's Day gift. I feel like I'd get this from me for my Amore with coffee. You know what I'm saying?
I think we should talk about the good things about the movie now. There are some redeeming qualities to this movie, to be honest. Special effects are all really well done, actually. The transitions between the fog world and the other world are actually really well done.
In addition, something that I'd like to comment on, I had a friend back in high school who was super duper big into like theatrical costuming and makeup, and even though she didn't really like the movies for the plot line, she would always tell me that she'd keep going back just to get new ideas for costumes and whatnot.
All in all, most of the problems that I have with the movie are that it's not a very good adaptation. If it's just a standalone movie, you're not going and having played any of the games, it's an okay movie. It's
Albeit confusing.
It's not the worst horror movie, but it's far from the best.
Without further ado, the official Dial M for movie rating for Silent Hill the movie is... Wait for it. 1 bone out of 3 chicken wings.
No, MC, that's not how we rate movies. The official Dial M for movie rating for Silent Hill the movie is...